So the first white man arrives in North America, see, and he looks out over the land and he calls it a pristine, untouched wilderness. That's gotta be the greatest compliment that anybody could pay to the native peoples who had lived here for thousands of years. And it's still possible to catch a glimpse of what that wilderness used to be. And I think the best way to do that is in a canoe, the most beautiful and functional craft ever created.
Accept the gift of circumstance. No more careful stepping plans. Everything holds out its hands. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Waterwalker. Water on the sky above. Creation as metaphor for love. Shed resistance like a worn out glove. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Water walker. Got no power, got no fear. Anyone can do it, can't you hear? The river crying loud and clear. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Water walker.
It's a feeling of almost euphoria to get out here, and I've got a canoe load of food and I don't have to be back by any set time. I've gone on canoe trips where I didn't have to be back until the snow started to fly or the lakes froze over. And it's just the greatest feeling of freedom I know. It's really tough. I mean, finding a way to make a living out here. For years, I didn't even try. I was working as a commercial artist, and every spring I'd quit my job to roam around out here from breakup to freeze up. And sometimes I'd take along a friend, or I'd work as a guide at a children's camp. I really enjoyed showing people what I'd found out here. Gradually, painting and photography became a way of sharing my experiences with a much wider audience. I prefer painting, but film is just about the next best thing to taking you with me. The problem with film, you show it the way it is, everybody goes off to sleep. All our lives, stories and films and legends have portrayed wilderness as a very dangerous place to be. I'll never forget the time we were showing my footage to some of these heavy-duty producers, see, and one of them says, "Hey, not bad. Listen, let's get a writer on this. You know, get a little drama into it." Another guy says, "Yeah, like an airplane crash. And he's the only survivor, but he's got this busted leg, see? And then there's this pack of ravenous wolves." Well, it was the wolves that ripped it. I grabbed my film and got the heck out of there. So there's no wolf attacks. I don't get ravaged by wild mountain men or robbed by bandits. In fact, there's no bad guys at all. Just you and me, paddling the biggest and most spectacular lake in the world, Lake Superior. This love or passion for canoes that some people have is not something you can explain. I'm not sure you can be born with it, but as far back as I can remember, I was fascinated with canoes. They flunked me in grade 1 because all I would do is draw pictures and make models of canoes. They thought I was a slow learner, but I figured I didn't need all that other stuff they're trying to teach me because I knew what I was going to be. I was going to be a canoeist. So who's laughing now? I spent most of my life roaming around out here and getting paid for it. There was a time when I was just fascinated with the history of the voyageurs. I read that stuff and I imagined that I was a voyageur paddling across the country and carrying hundreds of pounds of furs and trade goods and things like that. I dreamed about retracing all the voyageur routes, and then I gradually became aware of what that era did to the native peoples. And I began to listen to what those great Indian orators have tried to tell us for over 100 years. And we never listened.
We saw the Great Spirit's work in almost everything: sun, moon, trees, wind, and mountains. Sometimes we approached him through these things. I think we have a true belief in the Supreme Being, a stronger faith than that of most whites who have called us pagans.
In our culture, it's really tough to talk about spiritual things. You know the feeling, like, oh no, here comes the sermon. And no matter what I say, I can't win, because my church crowd will feel I didn't say enough, and my canoe cronies will say, well, we enjoyed the picture, but we could have done without the sermon. So what are you going to do? I look around me at the colors, the textures, the designs. It's like being in an art gallery. God is the artist. And he's given us the ability to enjoy all this and to wonder. And in our own small way to express ourselves through our own creativity. And that's why I like being here. I always wondered where my favorite painter got his incredible color schemes, and then one day, there they were. All his colors in perfect harmony. I think it's good to have heroes, and mine is William Mallard Turner, a 19th century British master. When I look at a Turner painting, there's something about that guy. The way he captures a mood or a feel, whether it be a quiet morning or a thundering waterfall or a raging storm. He just does it like no other artist I know. There's just some power in there. I can't remember a time when I felt lonely out here. And about the only hardship that I can think of is that I miss my family very much. We do a lot of canoeing together. When I'm alone, though, there's no one to share this with, so filming and painting become very necessary to me. I used to use brushes, but they don't interest me much anymore. With brushes, I know what a painting's going to look like even before I begin it. With palette knives, I haven't got a clue. I shove the paint around until something begins to develop, and the problem is that often nothing does. I'll make 9 or 10 attempts before something emerges, and sometimes I'll give up. I just can't get it. The feeling I'm looking for just isn't there. I always find it exciting to come across something that tells me that the native peoples lived here along the shore. And I love to just sit and think about them, about their life here, how they lived. They left no written words, only rearranged boulders on the beaches and pictographs on rock faces. And I like to think that what they would have to say would be similar to that of the Plains Indians, or maybe the Dene.
We should know that He is within all things, the trees, the grasses, the rivers, the mountains, and all the four-legged animals, and the winged peoples. And even more important, we should understand all this deeply in our hearts. Then we will fear and love and know the Great Spirit, and then we will be and act and live as He intends. My country has lots of water. This water runs from little creeks into the big rivers, from the big rivers into the ocean. The water of my country is like the face of a man, sometimes quiet and peaceful, sometimes rough and angry. You could sit with me for hours and watch it for hours. It washes my body and also my clothes. It tastes so good when I am thirsty. My children like to play in it. It is the home of the fish we catch. It takes me to my nets and to my hunting grounds. When it freezes over, I can walk on it, and my dogs make good time. But I am glad when spring comes around again and big chunks float down the river. Once more, the water of my country is alive and gives life.
Paddling in this stuff would be a lot more fun if it wasn't for the deadly cold water. You can't afford to make a mistake. But you know how it is. You paddle around in this stuff for years, no problem. Then one day we're out here, and I know the camera's running. And I'm pushing it just a little more than I normally would. I round a point, and all of a sudden it isn't fun anymore. I look down into that black, frigid water, and all I want to do is get the heck out of there. You hit the ice-cold water, and you think of only two things. I've got to get out of there as fast as I can, and is the cameraman still shooting? hanging onto a canoe in ice-cold water with no hope of being rescued just doesn't appeal to me at all. The thing that really scared me, though, was the undertow coming out of the cove. I was getting pretty desperate there for a while. Once across that invisible barrier, though, the waves actually helped me to shore. I was very confident of getting the canoe back eventually, but the thing that scared me was that if it landed on the rocks, there'd be nothing left but matchwood. The way the wind was blowing, lined up for the beaches, I thought, well, as long as the wind doesn't change, I'll get it in the morning. But believe me, I was apprehensive, and also it's more than just losing your canoe. You get a real thing going with your canoe, and that's a beautiful old canoe. I have a lot of fond memories of places I've been with it. It's pretty beat up, but every scratch, I know where I got it. I wouldn't want to lose that canoe. One thing I really enjoy is digging my paintings out of my pack and thumbing through them. I love to relive those memories of a time, a place, a mood. There are times when I'm not sure whether I'm a painter who loves to canoe or a canoeist who loves to paint. I only know that when I look up one of those Lake Superior rivers, I've just got to see what's up there. I've tracked moose, sat for hours at a drinking place, never see a moose. Then one morning I'm sitting there by my fire. I look up, and there she is, standing there looking at me. So you see, nature films often give the impression that the country is running alive with animals. Well, I'll tell you right now, it's a lie. I'll canoe a whole summer and see 1, 2 moose, maybe a bear if I'm lucky. It's a really big deal to see an animal. Most of the canoeists that I know don't share my love of the old wood and canvas canoes for wilderness trips. They figure you have to be a little senile to lug one of these around rather than the lighter modern canoes. There's a beauty and a warmth in a wood canoe, though, that you don't get in any other canoe. Sure, I'll use a tougher, lighter canoe for horsing around in rapids with my friends, but not when I'm roaming out here painting. I've seen bathtubs with better lines than some of those modern canoes. The thing about traveling upstream on these obscure little superior rivers is that you see things differently when you travel the way the native peoples did. They'd head up these rivers every fall to their winter hunting grounds, and it was on those inland lakes where they would find the plants and the animals to sustain them through the long, cold winter. And that's where I find some of my best subjects to paint. People look at my tent, and I know what they're thinking. They're thinking, when's the circus begin? So let them laugh. I like a big tent where the whole front is open to the view. There's no way you're going to get me into one of those little tents they call pup tents. To me, those are dog houses. It's at times like this when some of my best stuff happens from memory. Like all the unimportant details have been filtered out by time, and all that's left is a feeling. Anybody who tells you portaging is fun has got to be a liar or crazy. Now the walk back for the second load. That's the part I like.
Did you know that trees talk? Well, they do. They talk to each other, and they'll talk to you if you listen. Trouble is, white people don't listen. They never learned to listen to the Indians, so I don't suppose they'll listen to other voices in nature. But I have learned a lot from trees, sometimes about the weather, sometimes about animals, sometimes about the Great Spirit.
All of my life, people have been telling me you should never travel alone. But it's interesting. I've never been told that by anybody who's ever done it. Most canoeists I know, there's no way you'd catch them traveling upstream against the current. And there are times when I crave the company of my whitewater friends and the thrill of running rapids. The problem is that there's no slowing them down. All I want to do is get to the next rapid. And when I go with them, I find myself getting caught up in that too. I enjoy a good time as much as the next guy. If there's anything more fun than horsing around in rapids, I'd sure love to hear about it. But after a while, I look forward to getting back to my painting and sketching. And for that, it has to be alone. I spend a lot of time looking at maps. What I watch for is where the contour lines all crowd together along the river. Where the lines cross, you can be pretty sure the scenery's going to be spectacular. I'll anticipate getting to a waterfall, and I'll build up in my mind what it will be like. And I think the fact that it really is way back in the wilderness is maybe the thing that intrigues me. Sure, there are more spectacular waterfalls, but when they're close to a road, that feeling or that aura just isn't there. You look at a place like this, and you know that the only reason it's still here is because it's so hard to get to. It takes some of the thrill out of being here, just knowing that sooner or later, these falls will be silenced behind steel and concrete. You travel alone, you do a lot of thinking. And you see things that you would never notice when you're with other people. It was several years ago that I noticed that the birches are in big trouble. Then I began hearing about acid rain and how the lakes are dying. And then I heard of a place not far from the Superior Shore where nothing grows. You see for yourself what we were doing to the land.
Being an Indian means being able to understand and live with this world in a very special way. It means living with the land, with the animals, with the birds and fish, as though they were your sisters and brothers. That is the way we feel about our land. It is our flesh. The grass and the trees are our flesh. The animals are our flesh. This land is our blood. The land gives us life. We still live on the same land as our parents and grandparents, so it is just like they are still living with us. To me, the earth is like a mother. She gives life. I am her child. Yes, the earth is a good mother to me, and she is also so beautiful. Every day I look at her face and sing in my heart.
You talk about the native people and how they lived, and everybody thinks you're suggesting that we all go back to living in teepees. But that's not it at all. I just think that because they live close to the land, that they were the experts. And what they have to say is worth listening to, especially today.
When I was 10 years of age, I looked at the land and the rivers, the sky above, and the animals around me, and could not fail to realize that they were made by some great power. I was so anxious to understand this power that I questioned the trees and the bushes. It seemed as though the flowers were staring at me, and I wanted to ask them, "Who made you?" I looked at the moss-covered stones. Some of them seemed to have the features of a man, but they could not answer me. Then I had a dream. And in my dream, one of these small round stones appeared to me and told me that the maker of all was Shemnedo, and that in order to honor him, I must honor his works in nature.
I find it interesting that it's the words of those great Indian leaders that have sent me digging through my cultural and spiritual origins for guidance on how to relate to the earth. There's a beautiful piece in Job that says, "Ask the animals and they'll teach you, or the birds of the air and they'll tell you, or speak to the earth and it will teach you, or let the fish of the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind." I really like that. You're canoeing along, you look down into the water, and you see the grasses bending in the current. Now that's the first sign that the downstream run is about to begin. I often think of the Indian families who would break camp in the spring for their run down river to Superior, where they would visit and trade with their friends and relatives. And I often wonder if they look forward to the journey as much as I do. With their fragile birch bark canoes loaded with children and furs and all their earthly possessions, I'm sure the feeling was somewhat different from mine with my light equipment and waterproof packs. There's an old saying that only fools run rapids. Well, I think the greatest danger in rapids is becoming a whitewater addict. When you feel that canoe being picked up by the current and you look downstream and you see the rapids disappear around a corner, like the feeling that comes over you is, you just can't explain it. I'll be sitting there looking at the rapids, and I'll think about it for a long time. And then I'll decide that I'm going to run it. And I'll start down the brink, and half of me is saying, yeah, scare me, scare me. And the other half is saying, that's enough. It's crazy. And even when I don't run a rapid, I'll sit beside a rapid or even a falls, and I'll say to myself, now let's see. If I was going to run this, I'd set the canoe up here, and I'd do a back ferry over there, and I'd shoot through that chute, and the thing is totally unrunnable, but I can entertain myself by the hour doing that. What is it about this business of scaring yourself half to death that seems to be fun? I know what you're thinking. You're wondering where on earth I found a set of rapids like that. Well, I cheated. That's all the best stuff over the past few years. So there you are. Film can be deceiving. But when it comes to the beauty of the world out here, the camera has not lied. I've shared with you many of my favorite places, and I've shared them because I think the only hope for what's left of the natural world is to rediscover that love and compassion for it that the native peoples talk about. And I think that's possible because God created us with the ability to do the impossible. When Jesus called Peter to walk to him across the water, Peter was doing just fine until all of a sudden he remembered that people aren't supposed to be able to do that, and he began to sink. I think we've just forgotten how to walk on water.
Accept the gift of circumstance. No more careful stepping plans. Everything holds out its hands. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Waterwalker. Water under, sky above. Creation as metaphor for love. Shed resistance like a worn out glove. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Gonna hold you up and love you. Waterwalker. Got no power, got no fear. Anyone can